Hey, and welcome to this podcast where I am going to be talking with Jade from Studio Conceal. This podcast is actually jam-packed with so much gold that you need to listen to the entire thing. So I want to introduce you to Jade. She is a camouflage tattooist and educator in Arizona and is known for her forward-thinking approach to the industry and her passion to help unlock the potential of others, which I absolutely love. And you can tell that she is passionate about education and the success of her students. With years of experience in the beauty industry, Jade has become an expert in the art of creating natural-looking tattoos that blend seamlessly into the skin. What sets Jade apart from other artists is her unwavering attention to detail. She understands that every small detail matters in creating an experience that both the clients and in students are inspired by. As an educator, she has helped countless aspiring artists to develop their skills and build successful careers in the camouflage tattooing niche. Her compassionate and supportive approach has earned her a loyal following of students who appreciate her ability to bring out the best in them. Her students come from all over the world, and you can see why in this interview. Jade is also the host of the Beauty Expanded podcast, where she shares her insight and expertise into the mindset of beauty professionals. Through her podcast, she hopes to challenge limiting beliefs and norms of hustle culture so that you can pursue dreams and goals in a healthier, more meaningful way. Now, Jade has also been featured in Elle for scalp micropigmentation, and Allure magazine has interviewed her as well. And she also offers free temporary breast nipple tattoos for breast cancer survivors every Friday, which I think is just so beautiful. So welcome, Jade, to the podcast. Let's get into today's episode. Hey, and welcome to the Cosmetic Tattoo Talk podcast. This podcast is for new artists who are serious about building their reputation and becoming an authority in their area. Join me, your host, Rebecca Cody, every week where we focus on expanding your knowledge of how to become an amazing tattooist. Hey Jade, thank you so much for coming on today's episode. So the reason that I wanted to get you on here is because you are an expert in this field, and I really wanted you to help kind of educate new artists on the fact that this is an avenue that they can take if it is of interest. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in the industry, like how it all happened for you, what you were doing before, and yeah, let's jump straight into it.
So I've always been a serial entrepreneur, have just always worked for myself and started odd end businesses. But the business that I was doing before I got into camouflage tattooing was airbrush tanning. And that was my first beauty business because I had always done marketing and been more on the digital marketing side of niches. But airbrush tanning was like my first beauty business. And I did that for about 3 years and then ended up selling the company and took some time to just kind of figure out what else I wanted to do. And during that time, I just realized that I missed the beauty industry because I love the social aspect. And then also with airbrush tanning, I would serve women day in and day out. And I always remember seeing them at their most exposed. You know, they're coming in there to get tan, so they're nearly naked, if not naked. And that can be a really vulnerable, exposing feeling. And in those moments, they would always complain about their stretch marks and scars or cellulite. And so those were like the biggest problems that I would hear constantly that women struggled with. And they would always ask me, will the tan help minimize that or help make them less noticeable? And I knew enough in the beauty industry that there wasn't a ton of options for stretch marks and scars. Like, yes, you can do laser, you can do microneedling, but it's kind of a gamble, not guaranteed results. And again, just very limited options when it comes to what you could do. Creams and lotions, which everyone said didn't really help them.
Yeah.
So then, when I was taking my break, I was just kind of thinking, okay, what else are they doing in the beauty industry? And that's the cool thing about the beauty industry is it's constantly evolving at a rapid pace. And so at the time, everyone was into brows. Like brows were just making back their comeback. But I knew myself enough that I wasn't interested in brows, but then that's what got me down the rabbit hole because I literally started Googling what other things can you do with permanent makeup. And then when I saw that someone was camouflaging stretch marks, I was like, bingo, that's it, because that was something that I would hear day in and day out with tanning. And so when I saw that that was even a possibility, I was like, wow, this is so unique, it's innovative. And long story short, that's how I got into camouflage tattooing.
God, that is so exciting. And I mean, it's great to hear that, you have the passion, because I talk to so many new artists and I can see that you have the passion. These new artists come in and they've been sold this idea of they can make this much a week if they do tattooing, and that's just not the right way to get into it. You have to have the willingness to help people rather than have like that dollar sign at the end of your week, because you're just never going to make it that way. But with camouflaging tattoo, did you find that it's, I know with a lot of cosmetic tattooing, a lot of the training falls short. Did you find that you had to do a lot of the legwork on the training yourself, like your own research, or did you find that there was enough out there to kind of get you started?
No, absolutely the latter. And, I'm sure you've heard stories as well, being in the industry and being an educator yourself. I don't know if it's a rite of passage, but I feel like you just don't know until you know. And so you get into the industry and you see these online trainings, or you see that so and so is having this success, and it's very tempting. Money is very tempting, and so is our time. So when you can see that someone is telling you the possibility of making six figures in a short amount of time without having to get a 4-year college degree or 1,600 hours clocked in for a license, it is very tempting. And so kind of going back, so that actually wasn't the reason why I got into camouflage tattooing, but not knowing what I didn't know how hard it was. I didn't know what made a good trainer. I didn't have any of that discernment. All I saw was, there were very few people training on this, and I just knew I wanted to take action immediately. And so impulsively, I just took action, trained with someone, and I will, now kind of like bigger bird's eye view, because there weren't a lot of trainers. I'm thinking maybe if I give her a little grace, like maybe she wasn't trained properly and therefore she was just regurgitating information and training other people on what she had been trained. But it wasn't until I started actually tattooing people and making a ton of mistakes. That's not something that everyone likes to admit, but that is what made me realize, oh, there's a huge gap and I have to get more training. And unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of people training. And so I took as many trainings as I could. There was probably only 2 other people training on camouflage tattooing, but I would say where I learned most of what I know now is through trial and error, as well as watching YouTube videos and watching body artists, watching them shade and learning what they used, types of needles that they're using for this body art piece or that. I was just digging into anything I could find information on, and a lot of it was self-taught.
Wow, that's awesome. And like getting back to your opinion about what makes a good trainer, like do you think there's specific traits that you should look for or that you have looked for when you start to get into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm always a student myself. So, even though I educate people and I train people, it doesn't mean that I've stopped learning. I still sign up for mentorships. I have mentors in the industry, and I definitely always continue my education. But I think it depends on what level you're at. So, like, as a novice, as a new artist who has never touched a tattoo pen, I do believe, and I feel very strongly that you have to do the tattooing practical application with someone. Like someone needs to watch you. Someone needs to be able to pivot your hand movement, your depth, and all those things. And an online training can be great for many other aspects, but I think as a beginner, you definitely need some of that hands-on in-person training, even if it's a hybrid model where part of it's online and the next part is in person. But I think now that I have enough experience under my belt, I'm a lot more confident in taking online trainings because I already know how to tattoo and I already know what to look for. But I think in the beginning, I would have been lost if I had just taken an online course. But in regards to like, what I personally look for in a trainer is I am very big on just making sure that they're still in the industry, that they are still taking clients. Because I think that's important because every person is so different, their skin's so different, especially when you're in camouflage tattooing. A lot of times, scars, stretch marks, it's compromised skin. So if I'm looking for a mentor or a trainer, I want to be sure that they are literally taking clients themselves. I'm looking at their before and after portfolio, like they should have a pretty extensive portfolio. I'm looking at reviews. And then I also like to just talk to them because I'm a very visual learner, so I need to know that because that's the type of learner that I am, I'm specifically looking for someone who has some sort of in-person training for me. That because I know that about myself, I know that I need a teacher that is aligned with my learning style. And so a lot of times I am talking to them and getting to see, what is this in-person part of the curriculum look like? Do I get to shadow them and all that stuff?
And I think that's really important too. And I say that to a lot of the students who are looking for training now, is even to just call the trainer and see if you gel, because if you both, like if you're not people that gel together, it's going to be really hard to learn from each other too.
Absolutely. And then you just reminded me too. It's like, if you're inquiring about something and it takes them weeks to get back to you
Mm.
and they're not very communicative, I mean, I think for me, that's a pretty telltale sign for me as well. And that all those little things really do add up in those small details because for me, that kind of I mean, the way that I perceive it is if it's this hard to get an answer from you or to even get a call back, then how hard will it be when I actually need you after I've done a training with you and there's an emergency or I have question about something or this person didn't heal the same, anything like what does that support truly look like? And I think, if you can't get a hold of them even to just talk about their training, then I think how you do one thing is often how you do everything.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. And that too, like that just reminded me there's so much, I think there's so much lack of support after you finish. Like as soon as you've done the training and sure, like you've given them all the money for the course, as soon as you're finished, it kind of just feels like you're on your own, you know, don't contact me. And like if you don't have that kind of ongoing support or even that option to reach out to them if something happens that's super unexpected, then yeah, are they the trainer for you?
Yes, and I know that from firsthand experience. Like that's what
Mm.
happened to me with my first two trainers is when I didn't know what I was doing and I was literally tattooing people and it wasn't coming out right. I would reach out to them and I just felt like, I just felt so alone because I didn't feel like they were very supportive or that they had any answers.
Mm. Yeah, I can resonate with that. I've been through the same thing. And so where are you now? Because you're running master classes, aren't you?
Not yet. So our program's a little different. So I'm still tattooing. So I've been camouflage tattooing for 5 years now. And we also train aspiring artists as well to learn how to do what we do. And our training program's just a little different. It's actually 5 days in person. And then after the 5 days, you're immediately enrolled in a year-long mentorship with me. And so through the mentorship, we meet, so my students have access to me. They have my cell phone number. They can easily get a hold of me for those one-off emergencies. But the one thing that I really like about the mentorship that we do is it's just a little bit more formal. So that way, through the mentorship, we do a call once a month and it's recorded if they can't interact with me live. But once a month for sure, they're going to get a webinar style of not only just continuing their education. So, one of the things that I really like, just to continue their education, because, even though they have two model experiences in our training, they still I mean, there's so much more to learn in regards to scars and stretch marks and different body types and different skin tones. And so in our mentorship calls, we share case studies. So we actually share clients that we're currently working on, how this person healed, the strategy that we took that we decided to do on the touch-up session, how many sessions this took, what modality we used to get them to these results. And we show them that whole process so that way we can continue their technical side of their education, because I may get a burn scar and they may not have gotten a burn scar yet, but maybe in 3 months' time, they might get their first burn scar client coming in through the doors. And now they're going to feel more competent, more confident, more capable, because at least they have an idea of a strategy that they could do for this particular person. And then we also dive into marketing, mindset stuff, because so much of business is mindset shifts. And so we talk about that. And then of course, like any Q&As that I can help support them with, as well as celebrate any wins that they have. So if they've landed clients or this person DM'd them or whatever the case may be, we always like to try and support them through that.
That is so amazing. If you're listening on the podcast and you go over to the YouTube channel, I'm like smiling so big because I love that so much. I love that you're with them for the first 5 days, and then you've given them the support and that ongoing education, because you're right, you can't always guarantee that you're going to have all of the different people in their first training week that you will have later in their career.
Yeah, and they get to learn from each other too, because someone again is going to have a different experience and different client than someone else. And I mean, that's the one thing that's really unique about camouflage tattooing, is there is literally no stretch mark that's the same, no scar that's the same. And I always like to tell clients, like, if me and you went to the same surgeon and got a breast augmentation, me and you will heal completely different, even if we use the same surgeon. And that's what makes camouflage tattooing so interesting, and also kind of keeps you on your toes, is just because you just never know. And so it's always nice, I think, to build a bit of a community of like-minded artists that have trained with us, that have invested in their career at the same level as other people, and then be able to learn and feed off of each other.
Yeah, and community is so important. Like, I don't know what it's like where you are, but in Australia, I feel like the industry is just like so small, like everyone knows everyone. And it's always just like you have to build a very supportive community in case you get those times that you need to reach out to your friends.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool, Jade. Oh, that's awesome. And so if someone wanted to learn camouflage, let's say it was international, is that something that you offer at the moment, or is that in the pipe work?
So I'm in Arizona in the US, and we have had students fly in from all over the world. So I've actually trained two girls, so they're sisters, from Australia. And so we also had someone this year fly in from the Netherlands. We've had someone from London. So we've had some international students. I don't tour. Maybe that's something that I'm open to in the future, but for now, we just base everything at our studio, just probably because of the convenience, and we have everything here for them.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'd love to have you in Australia. You can always come
Yes.
and visit. But that is so good. And it's understandable that people travel so far, because being such a small industry, although it's growing exponentially, there's still avenues like stretch marks that aren't really that big. And there's people like you that are specialists in that. So people would seek you out.
Yes. Well, I hope so, but thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so with your marketing that you do with your students, like, can you tell me a bit about that for anyone who would be interested in training with you?
Yeah. So, in regards to marketing, so you mean some of the things that we like to share with our students?
Yeah. So, with your background in marketing, and you said
Yes.
socials, and then how you correlate that to your teachings.
Yes. So, this is a subject that I get so stoked about, just because marketing is my jam, and I really love to. I mean, I love being an entrepreneur, but I would say if you were to kind of piece out entrepreneurship, my favorite part is right in the beginning, is to basically give the illusion or make the illusion that you're much bigger than you are. And I think that's the biggest block that most new artists have to kind of go through is that imposter syndrome of being like, I don't have a portfolio. I don't have a ton of clients. I'm just starting out. I don't even have a ton of experience. So how am I going to make that all happen? And it can seem really overwhelming. So one of the things that I always try and encourage students, and I've just literally been thinking about this week, kind of like piecing out what is the common denominator of students that have been very, very successful. And when I say success, what I'm measuring is how quickly are they making back their investment training. And one of the things that I can pick up on is that they immediately start doing videos. And so it's one of the things that I stress with my students a ton is you have to put yourself out there. Because this is a very personal service. It's also high ticket as well. And you want to be able to establish credibility and trust with a potential client. And the fastest way, the fast track to that, in this particular niche, I think, is to do video, because in video, everything can be translated within milliseconds. Someone can resonate with the frequency and vibration of your voice, your mannerisms. They're making eye contact with you. They're hearing the fluctuations of your voice, your accent, the tone of your voice. And you begin to build that relationship with them instantly versus hiding behind a generic logo or a photo. And then in the beginning of my career, so that's what I did was, saying I started off with just like everyone else, 0 clients. I didn't translate any of my airbrush tanning clients to tattooing. So I started from ground zero. And I was in an entirely new field, and I just began doing videos. So then the next question is, well, I don't have any clients. I don't have any before and afters. I didn't have that either. And so all I did was focus on doing videos, answering FAQs, one FAQ. And so the most frequently asked question in our industry is, what happens if you tan? And so I did multiple videos of that, answering the same question, but in different ways. Threw it up on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And to this day, people still watch those videos. And I always tell students, anytime you strategize your content where you're doing FAQs or educational content, you already naturally, how do I say this? You naturally position yourself as an expert or an authority. And when I first started, no one ever asked me, can you show me your portfolio? How many clients have you done? Because I was doing so much video of educating people what camouflage tattooing was. And back then, nobody really even knew what it was. And so I think it had established this credibility, this confidence exuded on video, because again, so many people hate doing video. And so the fact that I was just putting myself out there, they were able to identify me, put a face to my name, and be able to build that relationship where I'm educating them on a possible solution that may work for them. So when they did book a call or a consultation, and then I show up on Zoom, it's the same person, it's congruency, and that trust is now met with trusting that, oh, like she's exactly who she was in this video, and they have a familiarity with me. I always get jumbled up with my words, but it made the sale so much easier as well because they had already made a connection with me. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
like those are those things that I help really encourage my students to push past, because I know the biggest fear for a lot of them, this is their first entrepreneurship business. And so they have a ton of fear around putting themselves out there. And we're all human. We're afraid of how people are going to think of us. We hate the way that we look and sound. And then we're afraid of other people's judgment. But you figure, or at least the way that I kind of thought about it was, my competitors are feeling the same way, but I'll always be 10 steps ahead of them if I do video, because more than likely they're not going to do video because of those reasons. And I cared less about how I looked or how I sounded, because I knew that I was able to provide valuable information. I believed in the product, the service. And so that's what pushed me forward. And then I also think you do it consistently, video becomes a lot simpler as well.
Yeah, definitely. It does become easier. And I guess in the cosmetic tattooing industry, if you're offering a physical service, you can't ever overshare on video. Whereas if you have an online education, there's a chance that, you really have to nut out, you offer the, what do they say? You offer the why, you don't offer the how. And there's that differentiation. And with your students, do you encourage them to video themselves and only post on certain platforms? Or is it like take one video and put it in all different formats and post on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube?
I think everywhere. So I'm all about, that old dating advice, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think it goes the same with marketing. If the video is already done, why not post it everywhere? And there is a social media platform that I think a lot of people sleep on, which still to this day brings me a ton of leads. And I'm not very active on it, but I just make sure that I batch content and then just repost like maybe once every few months. But it's Pinterest. And in my particular industry, which I think would be relevant to all cosmetic tattoo artists, is that when you think of the demographic of Pinterest, it's women more often than not. Women who are looking up home decor designs, crock pot recipes. For me, dealing with stretch marks and scars, I'm thinking, a lot of stretch marks are created during pregnancy. So it's moms on Pinterest that are doing, their thing, their hobbies, recipes, cooking. And I started posting videos and before and after photos on Pinterest, knowing that there was a huge demographic of women. And that was great. I think I get like 31,000 views on my profile every month on Pinterest. And I'm not active. I mean, because it's very different. It's not very social in the sense of Facebook and Instagram where people are commenting, TikTok. But I do think a lot of people sleep on Pinterest.
Yeah, I agree. I'm one of those people on like, because I have an 18-month-old, so I'm like boobing him on the couch. Not anymore, we stopped boob, but I'd be like boobing him when he was a newborn, and I'd be like scrolling through Pinterest looking for things that, take my interest. So it's completely true.
Yes. And so to answer your question, yes, like absolutely put videos all over the place and you just never know what's going to hit. Like we just had a student, she's more of an Instagrammer and she ended up posting a video after our training on Facebook and she's like, I'm never on Facebook, but it so happened that her Facebook video went viral. And so you just never know.
Yeah, no, you don't. And I think it's important too to do things like favor the platform that's easiest for you. Like I find Instagram exhausting. Like it's just, I think I'm totally honest. Like I very rarely post videos because I'm just like, oh, what is it? Like I have to post once a day, but like podcasts and like doing videos like this, I find really fun and interactive. So I prefer this over Instagram, but you still need to be able to like take snippets and post them to the platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Like definitely I'm not spending a ton of time on all these social media platforms either. But I definitely try to sporadic, like just sprinkle in some content everywhere so that way not all of your content is on one platform because I think that is very limiting.
Yeah, definitely. And can I pick your brain about before and after photos? Because with your experience, do you think there is certain like apps or angles that you prefer or you like over others that make the best before and after photos? Like at the moment, is it posting on Instagram? Is it posting your after and then having a carousel for the before, or is it posting them side by side? Or is it editing them? Like which ones do you think have made the best impact?
So I mean, I think it just depends on your branding and just your own essence and your style. For me, I do like to post just one photo of the before and after and just keep it really simple. But then maybe if it is a carousel post, the first picture would be the before and after, and then the carousel would maybe be the healing process. Because with stretch mark and scar camouflage tattooing, it's really unique because they're the areas will look worse for a while, for a long while, and it looks really, really scary. Like nothing is camouflaged at all. Which, with cosmetic tattooing, like even if brows are really bold right after they get up from you working on them, you can usually tell a great difference. Like it's beautiful. And same thing with scalp micropigmentation. Like I love scalp micropigmentation and switch it up with the hair loss tattoo because it's instantaneous. I'm able to capture those before and afters immediately. But for stretch marks and scars, they often look very red, inflamed, swelled up. They just look crazy. But it's also really important to document that healing process so that way you can manage people's expectations and have them learn how to trust the process. So usually for a carousel, I like to show kind of like the healing journey so that they don't freak out and they kind of see, oh, like this is totally normal. And at the end of the day, those are the results that she got. But I'm really simple. I just use the layout app, which is I think like the Instagram app for the before and afters. But I will say one of the things that I started doing early in my career was I started using a digital camera, like a DSLR, not my iPhone. I have all the images stored on my iPhone. So once I take photos with a professional camera in my studio, I then, what do you call it, Bluetooth it into my phone. So I have everyone in albums. But for me in particular, with my niche, is it's really important to match their skin tone. And oftentimes it will take them months to heal. So when they come to my studio for the first time, I may not see them for 3 months, 4 months, or depending on their schedule, especially when COVID hit, gosh, I wasn't seeing people for like 8 months to a year later for their
Wow.
touch. So when they were coming in, it's different time of the day, different season. It's been years, it's been months. And so being able to kind of match their skin tones was a huge game changer for me when I learned how to do it. Because before I was using my phone, my iPhone, and even though I would put them, take all the photos in one particular corner of the room, their skin tones would change dramatically. Just because of the time of the day, or my phone wasn't really picking it up correctly. And so in the beginning of my career, I remember my first year when I would put people's before and after photos together, people would be like, why is her skin so much darker in this photo? Or is that the same person? Or I can't really see the difference or the improvement because the skin tones were drastically different. And it wasn't until I got a digital camera where I could manipulate the aperture setting, is what it was, that I was able to match their skin tones regardless of how light, dark, foggy it was outside.
Yeah, right. That's really interesting. And that's obviously something that I've never even thought about, but it would
Yeah.
apply to skin tones because people tan and it's winter and all of these things.
Yes.
And I saw one of your before and afters on Instagram the other day. I think it was like a chest camouflage, like a boob camouflage. It was really beautiful. The healed results were stunning. And I think one of the other questions, and I'm sorry if I'm picking your brain a lot, Jade,
Oh,
is
I love
how do you get them to come back in for those pictures? Because I think that's one of the biggest struggles that we face is getting them back in once they're healed. Like everyone's schedule's so busy. How do you get them in to see them?
Yeah, so for me, a lot of the before and afters that you see are because they're coming in for a touch up. So I'm literally capturing their after photo before I do their touch up session. And so even though we still, for the most part, so you do have to remember, and I'll be really honest with you guys, you're only going to see the best stuff on Instagram, right? Not everyone makes the Instagram page, and that's just the truth. But the results that you're seeing are after just one session, more often than not. And so when they're coming back 6 months later, 4 months later, I'm capturing that photo before we do a touch up. And there should be an improvement. So even if it's a 30% improvement, I'm posting that before and after photo. If it's a 50%, even better. A 70%, oh my God, like that's damn near 100%. And that works to my advantage. So I always tell students too, like, even if it's not perfect, as long as there's an improvement, that's perfect. Like, that is perfection. And the reason why is because you really want to attract clients who have reasonable expectations when it comes to their stretch marks and scars. Are they a type of client that wants it completely removed? Because I can't remove it, I can just help blend them in. Or are they someone that would just be happy with any sort of improvement? Because that's my ideal client. And so even when the client comes back and I'm doing a touch-up session for them, let's say we have a 40% improvement, to me that makes a beautiful before and after photo, because in the caption I can say, look at these results after just one session. And or I'm also trying to weed out people who would be really, really stoked if that was them, and kind of weed out the people that would be like, well, that's not good enough,
Mm.
like I would want 90% improvement or whatever. And so I'm using that to help me attract my ideal clients for my business that I enjoy working with. And so I'm not looking for perfection. Like, I almost like it when there's a couple of stretch marks that you can see or the scar isn't perfect. It I enjoy that because for me that's my ultimate goal, as well, is like, let me improve this for you, so therefore you feel better about yourself, and there's room for you to accept that, have more loving and acceptance towards your stretch marks or scars, because at the end of the day, I can't remove them. So that's one answer for you. And then the other answer is, there's something else that I wanted to relate back to cosmetic tattooist is, okay, so let's say I was a brow artist though. And obviously you guys are capturing, the before and afters, or the lips, you're capturing the immediately after. And so one way that I would encourage or kind of motivate people to come back, if you want to show that healed result of, I don't know, 6 months to a year maybe, is, people love food. Ask them, love to grab an after photo. It's our 6 month mark or 6 month anniversary. Make it fun, like a celebration. It's our 6 month anniversary. It's our 1 year anniversary. Would love for you to stop by the studio for me to capture an after photo. Lunch is on us, or coffee's on us. And then I would even add another bonus. So I love surprising people. It's just something that brings me a ton of joy. And so for us, we love to give our clients just random things: shower steamers, room diffusers, candles with our logo, and a handwritten note. And so it's almost like get them into the studio for lunch or coffee, but then also surprise them with just an added gift on top of it. And I think they'd be stoked for that.
That's so awesome. I love that. And I would love that if I was one of your clients. I'd be like, this is fantastic.
Yeah. And it's just and I think it'd be really fun. I just thought of that now, instead of, just celebrate, but it's our happy 6 year or 6 month anniversary, happy 1 month, 1 year anniversary. Love to get an after photo, any chance you'll be around town, or please stop in. We got a little something special for you, or something like that.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so, Jade, if someone wanted to contact you or find out more about what you do, where can they find your information?
Yes, so I'm actually most active on Instagram, even though I know that's not your favorite, but I'm probably the most active on Instagram. So everyone can find me at Studio Conceal. Of course, we have our website, which is studioconceal.com. And then I'm on TikTok and Facebook and all those things as well. And it's usually Studio Conceal, or it might be Jade Hernandez.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Oh, well, thank you so much for meeting with me today and having a chat. I actually, I get carried away so much talking about cosmetic tattooing because it's just such a fun industry to talk about. And, there's so much involved. But yeah, this has been fantastic. And I've learned so much, especially about the camouflage industry.
Yes. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks so much, Jade.
Thanks, Rebecca. Bye.
Bye. So if you wanted to find out more about what Jade does, or how you can get in touch with her, or how you can get into her trainings, you can find her on Instagram at Studio Conceal. If you wanted to have a look in the show notes below, there are her links as well. So I'll put the link to her website below. But I hope you enjoyed today's episode and our interview with Jade from Studio Conceal. And as always, if you have any questions, send them through to our email and I can help you answer them, or I can create a podcast about them. Thanks again, and I'll see you in next week's episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. It's always a pleasure to talk to new artists and returning artists if you've been here before. So if you have a topic you'd like to know more about, or if you'd like to be featured on the show, please email us at info@thecosmetictattoocompany.com.au, or drop us a DM in our socials at The Cosmetic Tattoo Company.